Les Ransom.
Please don't stand up, please don't stand up. Jack, how are you? Actually, they were absolutely honoured to have you both here today. It's fantastic.
Well, good afternoon everybody. Commandant, Jack, Les. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to RAF Barkston Heath today. I know that some of you have come from far and wide to be here on this special day in the 70th anniversary year of the liberation of Europe. I'm going to tell you two small stories which changed history, and that in turn will explain why we are all here. In 5 days' time, 70 years ago, had you been stood where you are now, you'd have been witness to this airfield and 7 others around here, like it, growling with the sound of nearly 1,200 Pratt & Whitney engines bursting into life to power almost 600 C-47 Skytrains for the United States Army Air Force. At 23:52 hours on the 5th of June 1944, 1,167 paratroopers of the 507th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division, climbed aboard 72 of those Skytrains of the 14th, 15th, 53rd and 59th Troop Carrying Squadrons of the 61st Troop Carrying Group that was based here at Barkston Heath. Along with thousands of other paratroops from the airfields of Saltby in Leicestershire, Spanhoe in Rutland, Langer, Fokenham, Fulbeck, North Witham and Cottesmore, their mission was to link up with the aircraft from southern England and spearhead the Allied liberation of occupied Europe. This was the first of many missions to be flown from these airfields, deploying paratroops of the 82nd Airborne Division into combat on the Normandy Peninsula. And along with the 101st Airborne and the British 6th Airborne Divisions having been deployed from the south of the country, allowed the amphibious assaults to get a foothold on the beachheads. My next story begins at a small village near here called Fulbeck, one of the cliff-top villages of some character, where at the hall the final preparations were being made by General Boyd Browning to facilitate Field Marshal Montgomery's plan to end the war before Christmas. The British 1st Airborne Division, along with General Sosabowski's Polish Brigade, had been encamped in the Lincolnshire villages and towns since the early summer months. The men of 2 Para were fortunate enough to be located at Stoke Rochford, to the south of Grantham. 1 Para at Grimsthorpe Castle and Easton Hall. Some were less fortunate and were billeted in the wood on the horizon just to the south of the airfield that you can see behind me. The mission they were preparing for was to secure the bridges over the Rhine, and for the British 1st Airborne, that bridge was at Arnhem. Lincolnshire became the jump-off point for the 1st Airborne's part in Operation Market Garden. This operation was subtly different to Overlord and the landers at D-Day, in fact the operation was being conducted completely during daylight hours. This alone caused significant increase in apprehension in the crews of the aircraft charged with deploying these troops. Notwithstanding these facts, the flight crews of the troop carrier groups based in South Lincolnshire and on the Leicestershire border carried almost 10,500 men of the British Division and Polish Brigade to their drop zones in contested and congested airspace at low level in broad daylight. No mean feat. Fortunately, we have 2 of those veterans here today, Jack and Les, both veterans of Arnhem from the 250 Light Company of the Royal Army Service Corps, and are both still with us, which is absolutely fantastic, and I'm really pleased to have you here today, fellas. So why here? Well, out of all of the other airfields that I mentioned previously, RAF Barkston Heath remains the only military field still active. So the memorial can be guaranteed its safekeeping and its maintenance. Why now? Well, I know from engaging with Terry, stood behind me, from the RAF Barkston Heath Research Group, and other local people from Grantham, there's been a long-standing vision for the recognition of RAF Barkston Heath and its involvement and contribution to the Second World War. And having been here as a Squadron Sergeant Major for a little over 6 months, it occurred to me that perhaps I could create some impetus for such representation. The 70th anniversary of both operations quickly approached, so time was of the essence, and not least because I'm posted as of Monday. I enlisted the help of John Fox to design something appropriate to represent the airfields and reflect the units which served here in Lincolnshire, which hopefully is apparent in the monument you will see before you very shortly. The stone that we've used is Ancaster Hard White, which is quarried not very far from here, just the other side of the High Dyke, and it was generously donated by Nick Johnson and his family. Unfortunately, Nick can't be here today, but he's represented by his father, Les. The plaques that you'll see are of Cheshire granite and have had the design sandblasted onto them by a former member of the Airborne Forces over in Cheshire. The stone walling is also local stone, has been donated by the Bertioli family that live just at Ropsley Farms, just again up the High Dyke, so a very local contribution. I'd like to thank all that have helped with the material donation of this project, two of which are here today. Glenn and Michael Evans, they gave up a couple of Saturdays for me to actually start and kickstart the construction process, building the core structure of the walled garden. A significant amount of my time was spent away from home, and I must take this opportunity to thank my wife Claire and our children for persevering with me. I'd also like to thank John Fox, who I've already mentioned, from Serco's Design, Concept and Talents, assisted hugely in the fundraising effort and will continue into the future for the memorial. I'd finally like to thank all of the staff and students from Barkston Heath. They're mostly stood behind me and can't wait for them to get posted to Wallington, for their support and assistance with fundraising and timely logistical tasking. Before I invite the Commandant RAF College Cranwell, Air Commodore Les and Jack to unveil the memorial, I'd just like to summarise the representation which this memorial helps to commemorate. Well, we've got us, the modern day military. We've got the Dakota that will arrive very, very shortly, which was the trusty workhorse of the Airborne in World War II. And there's Jack and Les that are stood right next to me, or sorry, sat right next to me, who represent the troops who fought to preserve our way of life. Once unveiled, please all be upstanding for the national anthem. Thank you. Sir, Jack, Les. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commandant of RAF College Cranwell, Air Commodore Luck.
Thank you very much. Commanding Officer Barkston Heath, distinguished veterans, distinguished guests, it is an absolute honour and a privilege to be part of today's ceremony. is an absolute privilege to be in the presence of men like Jack and Les, and all those that you represent. That is an important piece for us to remember. It is not often where an event has both local, national and international reverberations, both in its significance and in its history. And the events that were so ably described, Warrant Officer Wildblood and its connection to Barkston Heath is one of those. And I think it is a tremendous achievement to commemorate that in this 70th year. And Operation Overlord and Operation Market Garden need no more explanation and description than that we already hold dear in our hearts, and also as covered by Mr. Wildblood. One thing that always strikes me is that it is in fact extremely difficult to put ourselves in the shoes of those brave men. It's extremely difficult to capture the sense of fear. It is difficult to capture the courage required to overcome that fear. And it is extremely difficult in trying to capture the sense of comradeship and trust that was needed to overcome that fear, if you like, to deliver the courage required. And at the tactical level, where it matters, where life and limb is at risk, there is no sense of uniform, there is no sense of service, there is no sense of nationality. It is about the team. And I think today, and I think this memorial captures that sense of team, both for those that partook and for those of us today who hope to demonstrate the same courage and the same endeavour should it be required of us. And I think for this nation and for our US colleagues, the last 10 years or so have shown that we do have that spirit so ably demonstrated by Jack and Les's generation. It would be wrong for me to not conclude with a few words of thanks. My sincere thanks to Aviation Heritage Lincolnshire for their tremendous support. My thanks to all those local businesses that took it upon themselves to be part of this local history, this historic event, and this wonderful monument in front of us. But overall, my thanks go to an individual, to Warrant Officer Wildblood, who's now hiding behind my left shoulder, for his sense of vision, for his drive, for his sheer determination to bring this memorial to fruition. And may I also take the opportunity to thank Claire for her incredible patience in giving up her husband for so much of his spare time. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a genuine honour and a privilege to be with you today to commemorate this very, very special event and this special place. And I hope you very much enjoy the following celebrations as the afternoon goes on. Thank you very much.
I'd like you all to please feel free to look forward at the memorial. I'll give you a quick talk on it. As I said, the Ancaster White Stone, the Cheshire Granite. The roses have been donated by a company over in Shropshire, David Austin, and they've all got a relevance with names: Petite de Holland, Spirit of Freedom, Golden Wings, Pilgrim and Pegasus. So please take the time now before the Dakota arrives to enjoy the memorial.
Very much. Good. Please do. Thank you.
Congratulations.